Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. We all know that Games Workshop charges quite significant prices for its staff. It's not made easier when we also see the world of made to order on limited releases for things that I think quite a lot of players, certainly including future players, might want to see added to their army. Yes, it's a great little way of getting hold of an old model, but if there's no alternative available, it becomes quite difficult. I quite fancied the idea of adding a War Wagon to my force, but I have to admit I balked at paying Games Workshop prices. So I went out and had a look to see what else I could acquire. So now let's have a look at an alternative War Wagon. A figure made by Highland Games. And here we see the built model. Now I got this from UK Resin Print, a seller on Etsy. This was available both with and without crew. I decided not to go with the crew option because I thought, to be frank, it didn't really offer a lot and it would just take a bit longer to paint. I was quite happy just to get the base thing, and if I want a couple of models in, I can always throw some stuff in from my pile of shame or mountain of opportunity. Now, this has a pretty reasonable level of detail. You can see the individual wooden planks that are making up the sides of this. Got a couple of horses, and around the side there you can see the harness. Interesting shape. The castle bit here is on the back of the War Wagon, and it does look like it will just about fit onto a base of the requisite size. Now, this didn't go together quite as nicely as I would have hoped, but that's partially going to be me being a little bit cat-handed as opposed to any issues with the printing. I think it did snap together reasonably well. There's just maybe the odd small gap in here. As we do a quick rotation round to the side, you can see where things perhaps haven't lined up quite as nicely as I would have liked. However, overall I would say I'm happy with the quality of the print. I think it's come out really nicely. It was delivered within time scale, so nothing really negative I can say. And just from that gaps, yeah, you can see the light coming through at the far end just there. Let's have a look at how it paints up. I'm going to interrupt this just for a moment, however, to talk a bit about the wagon itself. I think this is a really interesting bit of kit. It can be taken as a mount for an engineer, which I think is quite interesting, giving your engineer that vantage point of being a large target with the buffs that entails, and also acts as a stable firing platform, so even if he's moving around a little bit, any gun he's got can be fired at full potential. The War Wagon itself is a heavy chariot as well as being a large target. It comes with D6 plus 1 impact hits and also does D3 plus 1 stomps. Those stomp attacks have armor piercing of -1, and the War Wagon itself will treat low linear objects as dangerous terrain rather than impassable terrain, so it helps it get around just a little bit more. Now, the War Wagon comes itself with 6 crew that are armed with a variety of weapons, 3 ranged and 3 close combat. It's got a blunderbuss, so some short range multiple shot, but only at strength 3 AP 1. It does have the multiple shots D3 special rule, however. There's the long rifle, a long range strength 4 AP -1 weapon that can be used to target specific models in a unit, so the champion or a character, but it doesn't stop them getting lookout sir rules and things like that, so I'm not sure it's really as good as it seems on paper. Then you've got the repeating rifle, 3 shots, strength for 24-inch range, AP -1 with armor bane 1, so that is a pretty useful weapon, but just one of them, it's not going to do a shed load of damage. Turning to the close combat weapons, you've got a ball and chain, which is a strength +3, so as it'll be used by a normal Imperial man. It's going to be Strength 6, AP -2 with Armor Bane 1, Strike Last requiring 2 hands. We've got the Hook Halberd, Strength +1, so Strength 4, AP -2, Armor Bane 2, quite interesting, requiring 2 hands, but you're only getting 1 attack with each of these weapons, don't forget. The War Wagon itself is going to be pumping out D3 +1 stomps. It's at Strength 5, that's probably where your damage is. Any of these weapons, just as an aside, it's the odd wound being pinked here and there. Finally, we've got the Man Catcher, which is a Strength 3, AP -1 weapon, but does have the Killing Blow special rule. This is a Strength Toughness 5 thing with 6 wounds and 3-up armor save. I think in perhaps a more defensive Empire list, this gives you that little bit of hitting power. You might want to crash it into an enemy unit, particularly if you've got heavy infantry that's starting to threaten your lines of missile troops, for example. It can tire that unit up a bit like a steam tank, but without then sacrificing that artillery that you've got on your steam tank, if that's the way you've gone for it. And if really you want something tough, durable, that can just get stuck in and slow things down, at 140 points, I think the War Wagon does offer quite a good value option here as opposed to the steam tank. And as you're possibly putting an engineer on it, so it's coming out of your character allowance, that means you've got your rare points for use on whatever you want. So you may want to be looking at dropping that steam tank, which at 265 points comes in at quite a hefty price, for 2, possibly 3 if you're from the army of Nuln, Hellblaster volley guns. Overall, I do like the War Wagon. I think it's going to be quite interesting and looking forward to seeing it on the tabletop. This aside out, let's go back to the painting. And here we see the final product. It's taken quite a while to paint this, as well it is a fairly chunky miniature. Now, when I first had a look at the resin when it was unpainted, I didn't quite appreciate just how much detail there is in this model. And I've done a reasonably basic paint job here, but managed to get an effect I'm pretty pleased with. I think for people out there who are modelers, who are particularly good painters, there is an awful lot that can be done with this model. As I say, there's a lot of detail I think that you could really pick out. Certainly on the horses, they could look a lot nicer than I've done here. And to be fair, I'm not a great one for painting horses anyway. I went with a fairly basic wooden appearance for the War Wagon itself. So a dark brown with some fairly heavy dry brushing over the top. And actually it's come out with an effect I'm pretty pleased with. I can see this being a really nice centerpiece model for an Empire force, particularly if you whack a engineer in there. That would be pretty cool, I think. I'm still probably not going to put crew in this. I might come back to it later and add a couple of models to it. But I do need to crack on with other products and really just try and get some of my backlog down. I've bought a few things recently that I really need to get done. Time of recording, I've just signed up as well for an event in August. Although it's a few months away, do appreciate that painting time is going to be quite limited over the summer. So I'm going to need to make some choices about what I'm going to do without buying too much, preferably, as I don't want to be really picking up loads of stuff to paint because of my commitment to paint everything I've bought over the previous year. So there we have it, another finished model for my forces of the Empire of Man. I'm really pleased with how this model has come out, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting it on the tabletop to see what it does in practice. I do think that for people who want to use war wagons in their Empire forces, this Highland miniatures model really offers great value. It wasn't that expensive, and considering when I last checked, the Empire War Wagon's not even listed anymore on the Games Workshop website. I think it was a made to order. Does mean that if you want to get your hands on the official figure, doubtlessly it's going to cost an absolute arm and a leg. So definitely a recommend here, I think. Getting one of these bad boys, whether you're printing it yourself or getting one done for you, is definitely an answer to the question of where do I get a War Wagon at an affordable price. That's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you've got anything you want to add, any suggestions for future videos, etc., do let me know down in the comments below as always. Always keen to try and pick up wherever possible on viewer suggestions. Thank you once again. All that remains for me to say is I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.